Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on a really striking and frankly quite concerning situation that unfolded across Russia's regions just recently. Our main source here is a detailed piece from Leila Latipova in the Moscow Times, published July 9th, 2025. So let's give you the quick rundown first. Over the weekend of July 5th to 7th, Russia basically experienced a major aviation disruption. We're talking 485 flights grounded, another 1,900 delayed right across the country. The estimated cost to airlines, something like 20 billion rubles, or around $250 million. And as if that wasn't enough, this travel chaos was happening alongside frequent, widespread mobile internet outages. Now, Russia's defense ministry points the finger at Ukrainian drone activity, but what this whole episode really did was expose some, well, critical vulnerabilities in Russia's very centralized infrastructure. It caused significant chaos and, directly hit ordinary people's ability to travel, to pay for things, even get safety alerts.
Yeah, what's really insightful, I think, is how you have these two things happening at once, the flight mess and the internet blackouts. They sort of come together to show up these deeper systemic weaknesses. And crucially, how that over-centralization, maybe designed for control, actually makes things more fragile when faced with decentralized threats. It hits daily life, even for people nowhere near the front lines.
That's a really key point. Let's dig into the aviation chaos first. The scale is pretty stark. As I mentioned, 485 grounded, 1,900 delayed, that $250 million figure for the airlines. And while the big hubs, Moscow, Sheremetyevo, St. Petersburg's Pulkovo, Nizhny Novgorod, Strizhino, were hit hardest. The impact wasn't just limited there, was it? It spread out. We saw effects as far away as Kaliningrad, the Baltic exclave, and even way out east in Vladivostok.
Exactly. And that wide reach is important because Russia's centralization isn't just political theory. It shapes the whole transport system. Think about this. Getting between many regions by air or train, often impossible without changing in Moscow or St. Petersburg. I mean, just to give you some scale, 3 of Russia's 21 republics don't even have a working airport. And even somewhere like Magas Airport in Ingushetia, often it only flies to Moscow. Kazan International is actually one of the rare exceptions that acts as a proper cross-regional hub.
So really locked into those central points.
Very much so. And it's not like trains are always a convenient alternative either. You've got Kazan and Ufa, right? Major economic centers in the Volga-Ural area, only about 450 kilometers apart, but no direct train line, even though people want one. So this forces everyone through those central hubs. Any disruption there, like these flight groundings, boom, immediate bottleneck across the whole country. It really shows that the kind of modern convenience we might take for granted, well, it's not universal when a system is set up like this.
Right. And that brings us to the human cost, doesn't it? It's not just numbers and logistics. The source article mentions this really vivid story of a woman, Yulia, and her child. They were stuck at Kazan airport, just trying to get from Murmansk, way up north, to Nizhny Novgorod. And she was frantic, worrying about getting refunds because she'd bought the tickets separately, connecting flights.
Yeah, that kind of personal story really brings it home.
Absolutely. And there's this contrast. People going between St. Petersburg and Moscow, okay, they had another option. They could jump on a train, and apparently they bought up almost all the remaining tickets for the weekend pretty fast. But for others, like Yulia, trying to move between different regions, they were just left, stuck in crowded airports, not many options at all.
And then, layered on top of all that travel misery, you had this digital blackout happening. These mobile internet outages. They've been getting more and more frequent since about mid-June. But now, according to this independent watchdog, Nosviazi, it's hitting almost every region. Doesn't matter how close or far you are from the Ukrainian border. It's become a persistent, widespread problem.
So what did that actually feel like for people on the ground, the daily impact?
Well, it was pretty immediate. People in places like Saratov and Tambov reported all sorts of issues. Cash registers just stopped working because they rely on internet connections, so you couldn't easily pay for things digitally. Public transport systems that use electronic payments had problems. And just basic communication, calling people, sending messages became difficult.
Wow, so really fundamental stuff.
Yeah. Stores apparently started putting up signs saying cash only because they couldn't rely on the network. And someone from Tambov made an interesting point. In smaller cities, maybe you can get around without navigation apps. But imagine that happening in Moscow, where everyone relies on real-time maps. It would be paralyzing.
That leads to a fascinating, maybe slightly ironic connection you pointed out earlier. How did these outages affect businesses, potentially in an unexpected way?
Right. This is quite curious. Russia's Passengers Union, an advocacy group, noted something interesting. Back in May, when there was another travel disruption, they saw a big spike in people asking for legal help, advice against airlines. But this time, during the July disruptions. No smolder spike. And the suggestion is that the very internet outages causing chaos for travelers might have also stopped them from easily seeking that legal help. If you can't get online reliably, how do you find a lawyer, file a complaint, or even reach out to groups like the Passengers Union?
Huh. So the internet outage might have actually inadvertently helped the airlines and tour companies avoid some legal fallout.
It's a potential side effect, yes, by basically hindering people's ability to organize and pursue claims. An interesting unintended consequence, perhaps.
Okay, so let's connect this back to the official explanation. Russia's defense ministry is blaming Ukrainian drones. They reported shooting down over 200 nationwide that weekend, and then another 91 overnight into Monday, including, was it 8 near Moscow and 3 near St. Petersburg?
Those are the reported figures, yes.
But what seems really alarming is the communication, or maybe the lack of it, for ordinary citizens. There is an account from a woman in St. Petersburg who said she got 0 SMS warnings about drone attacks. Nothing. Her mobile connection just dropped. That was the first sign something was wrong. She even mentioned being at a concert there. The artist was delayed 40 minutes. Mobile signals were patchy. And only later did she piece together that there had actually been an air raid alert going on during that time.
That's quite unsettling, not knowing what's happening.
Exactly. She described having mixed feelings about her safety when things like this happen. Warnings don't come through, communications go down. You can totally understand that feeling.
Absolutely. And if you step back and look at the bigger picture here, these events really put a spotlight on the vulnerability of that highly centralized infrastructure we talked about, especially when it faces these kinds of diffuse, decentralized threats, like drones or potentially cyber actions causing outages. You see the direct hit on citizen safety, on just daily functioning, even in cities far removed from any active fighting.
Yeah.
Reliable communication, reliable infrastructure. It's not just about convenience. It's fundamental for daily life, the economy, and critically for emergency response and keeping people safe in a crisis. When both travel and digital comms get hit simultaneously like this, the ripple effects are deep. It creates a real sense of unease.
So wrapping up our deep dive today, it feels like the key takeaway is this paradox. Russia's highly centralized system, maybe designed for control, actually proved quite fragile when hit by these widespread decentralized disruptions. We saw air travel grind to a halt in many places, and digital communications knocked out across vast areas. It really exposed how disruptions can cascade through such a system. And the bottom line is the very real, very tangible impact on ordinary people, their travel, their money, their ability to get basic safety information. So you've got a clearer picture now, hopefully, of how these broader tensions can ripple down into everyday chaos for citizens.
And perhaps a final thought to leave you with, building on that. Knowledge is really most valuable when you understand it and can apply it. So maybe consider just how reliant all modern societies have become on these incredibly interconnected systems. Transport, communication, finance. What happens when those systems, which seem so robust most of the time, face simultaneous, widespread shocks? What does this episode tell us about the kind of resilience we need individually and societally in what's clearly an increasingly complex and contested world? How vital is that reliable access to information and basic services, especially when things get tough?
That's a powerful question to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into these unexpected but significant disruptions in Russia. We hope it's given you some valuable insights and plenty to think about. Join us next time.